Good afternoon, students. I welcome you all for the class. Today, we are going to discuss another important topic in the Unit 4, that is interfacings. So, before going to proceed further regarding the interfacing, let us have some brief description regarding the interfacing, and we need to know the basic concepts of interrupts also. So when we are going to discuss anything regarding a particular microprocessor, we need to have the basic concepts of interfacing and as well as the basic concepts of interrupts. So let me tell you regarding the interfacing. Fine. So what do you mean by an interfacing, and why we need interfacing? So these are the two things we'll get to know before getting to the topic. Fine. So what do you mean by an interfacing? The name itself indicates interface means. What do you mean by an interface? Interface means it acts as a mediator. Interface means it acts as a mediator between two things. So if you want to communicate first thing to the second thing, we need some communication link. We need some communication link. That link we call it as an interfacing. So suppose we are going to have the memory, and we are going to have the input devices, and we are also having the output devices. Like we need to communicate all. So how we are going to go communicate, in the sense by making use of interfacing devices. So interfacing acts as a mediator between the two things in order to communicate in a more flexible manner. Fine. So let me tell you the definition of an interface. So what do you mean by an interface? In the sense, interface is the path for communication between two components. As I have said you before, in between any two components, this is the first component and this is the second component. In order to communicate, in order to make communicate between these first component and the second component, we need an interface. Without the interface, we are not able to connect, or we are not able to communicate between the any of the two components. So here interfacing is basically divided into two types over here. The first one is the memory interfacing, and second one is the IO interfacing. So these are the two basic classifications of interfacing. So let me see about this memory interfacing. So when we are going to talk regarding the memory, like you will be going to have the CPU, right? And you will be going to have the memory unit. These are the major important components of the computer, right? And next major component, you will be going to have the input output unit. So these are the major three components of a computer. Now we are going to talk regarding this memory interfacing, right? So when we are going to talk regarding this memory interfacing, so interface, as I have said you before, in order to communicate between two, we need an interface. So now I am talking regarding this memory interface. Suppose if CPU wants to read or CPU wants to write to the memory, like we need an interface in order to communicate between the CPU and between the memory. So here we need a microprocessor to access the memory for reading instructions, and we need to have a microprocessor to store the data onto the memory. So for this, both the memory and the microprocessor need some signals. So this memory and this microprocessor, we can also say it as a processor, our CPU. So both this memory and the microprocessor need some signals in order to read from or write to the registers. Fine. So that's how we are going to provide this interfacing in between the CPU and the memory unit in order to have the communication between these two. So without this interface unit, we can't communicate between the memory unit and between the processor. So by sending some signals between the CPU and the memory, we are going to communicate them properly, and we are going to coordinate them properly, and then we are going to do the request what we are going to expect. So this is how memory interfacing is going to be done. And next other classification is IO interfacing. So what do you mean by an IO interfacing? So what do you mean by an IO? IO is nothing but input and output, right? As you all very well know, IO is nothing but input and output. So what are the input devices? Input devices are nothing but to which we are going to provide some information to the computer. From which devices we are going to provide information? Like we are going to have the keyboard, mouse, printer, all these are the input devices. So what we need to do is we need to interface the keyboard and other devices with the microprocessor. How we are going to make interfacing between the keyboard, mouse? Like here I'm having the keyboard and I'm having the mouse. So here I'm having the processor. I need to provide interface between the keyboard and the processor. How I am going to provide an interface? In the sense, by making use of buffers and by making use of latches, I can communicate this keyboard and mouse to the processor. So without this communication link, without this interface, we can't make them communicate directly with the processor and do the required task. So this is how IO interface is going to be done. So memory interface is nothing but when we are going to read or when we are going to store in the memory, the CPU needs some signals. So without that signals, we can't store the data, or we can't read, or we can't write the data onto the memory or from the memory. So that is the memory interfacing. So when we are going to talk regarding this IO interfacing, so input output devices, like input devices like keyboard and mouse, output devices like printer, like plotter, speakers, all these comes under the output devices, right? So these IO devices wants to communicate with the processor. How they are going to communicate? In the sense, by making use of this buffers and latches, we are going to provide communication between the IO devices and the processors. This is how the basic introduction of interfacing is going to be done. Next, we'll be going to see the concept of, like actually we need to have the 8259 microprocessor. So before going to that 8259 microprocessor, you need to have the basic introduction of interrupts. So why? Because the 8259 is a the 8259 is programmable interrupt controller. The shortcut we call it as a PIC. PIC is nothing but programmable interrupt controller. So what do you mean by an interrupt? So what are the different factors that are going to be done in an interrupt? All the things you need to know. So without knowing that, you can't proceed further to this 8259 PIC microprocessor. So why I'm going to give the introduction of this interrupts? In the sense, like as it is an interrupt controller, you people need to have the basic knowledge regarding the interrupt. So that's the reason why we are going to see the introduction of an interrupts. So let me tell you, what do you mean by an interrupt? So interrupt is nothing but it's a some sort of, in normal terminology we call it as a disturbance. Interrupt in the sense disturbance. Suppose if I am going to take class, if I am taking class and somebody came late and they have interrupted me, like what they'll say, may I get in? So what I'll do, what I will do is I'll be taking class at that time. So this is the classroom, right? Fine. Like I'm going to deliver you the class. I'm delivering the class. So while I am delivering the class, one of the person entered into the class. So what I'll be going to do? Will I continue the class as it is? No. What I'll be going to do? I'll be going to halt my class for some time, 1 minute or 2 minutes. What I'll be going to say? Yeah, you just get into the class. I'll be going to respond to him, and then I'll be going to proceed to the class. Is it not? This is the thing happens when an interrupt occurs. In the same manner, taking this as an example, when the CPU is going to do any sort of work, when the CPU is executing some X task, and some Y task is requesting for CPU. This Y task is also in request of this processor. But what the CPU is doing? CPU is executing the X task currently. Currently, it is executing the X task, but Y task needs the time of the CPU. What it is going to do is it is going to interrupt the CPU. Interrupt the CPU in the sense, it is going to ask the CPU that I want your time. If the CPU, if this interrupt, if this task is having the low priority, and if this Y task is having the high priority, what the CPU will automatically comes? So CPU will give time to the Y processor. Let us come back to our example. So I'm delivering the lecture. If student came means sometimes I can continue my lecture. Why? Because as he came late, sometimes I can continue my lecture. If suppose if some principal or chairman came, will I continue my lecture? No. Why? Because they are the higher authorities. I have to give first priority to them. In the same manner, like based on the priorities, if X task is having the low priority and Y task is having the high priority, the CPU is going to give chance to the higher priority task. So that means here we are not going to bother about the low priority or higher priority. We are going to bother about the interrupt. So this is an interrupt. Interrupt in the sense stopping in the middle, we say it as an interrupt. Got it? So here, when a microprocessor receives any interrupt, so as I have said you, microprocessor is nothing but a CPU. It is normally a processor. Don't get confused between the uh, processor and the microprocessor. There is a difference between the processor and the microprocessor, but when we are going to talk in a normal terminology, we call it as a processor. So let me tell you what is the difference between a normal processor and the microprocessor. Normal processor is going to have the RAM and ROM. Our CPU, normal processor in the sense our CPU is going to have the RAM and ROM. That means it can store the data. But when it comes to the microprocessor, it doesn't have the RAM and ROM. It can't store the data. That is the only difference between the normal processor, our CPU, and the microprocessor. Fine. So here I'll be going to make use of terminology of processor. You just think that it is a microprocessor. Fine. So come back. So when microprocessor receives any interrupt signal from the peripheral, what are peripheral devices? What are peripheral devices? Input and output devices, we call it as a peripheral devices, right? Input devices, nothing but keyboard, mouse are the input devices. What are output devices? That printer, speakers, all CD, hard disks, all comes under the output devices. Suppose if we pressed any key from the keyboard, what the thing we have to get? The microprocessor, what it is going to do? The microprocessor will get a signal, but the microprocessor is going to do another task. When we are going to press any key from the keyboard, what the thing we have to do? Microprocessor has to respond to that particular key. When we click a mouse button, that signal will send to the microprocessor what we have done. Fine. That is an interrupt. So here, when microprocessor receives any interrupt signal from the peripherals like keyboard, mouse, or printer, scanner, it stops its current execution, whatever the task it is going to do. As I have said you, the CPU is executing X task. What it is going to do is it is going to stop that currently executing instruction, and the control is transferred to that interrupt. So how it is going to transfer? In the previous class, we have seen call and return instructions, right? So here call instruction is going to be placed. Call means 2400. We have to give a 16-bit address, or else we can't know where it has to go. Fine. So the CPU will give a call instruction. So by attending this here, and by placing the return instruction, it is going to come to the normal execution of the program. So this is how we are going to execute the call and return instructions. So what I mean to say is, interrupt is nothing but when the CPU is proceeding its own program. If from outside, if any other request came, that we call it as an interrupt. Fine. So this is how interrupt. So here we are going to have the classification of interrupts. The first classification of interrupts are hardware interrupts and the software interrupts. Coming to the hardware interrupts, when it comes to the hardware interrupts, like you are going to have the pin. Microprocessor is nothing but pin which is going to have pins, right? We are going to insert that microprocessor in the allocated slot. So hardware interrupts, when it comes to the hardware interrupts, when microprocessor receives an interrupt signal through these pins, we call it as an hardware interrupts. through the pins, if it receives a signal, we call it as a hardware interrupts. When it comes to the software interrupt, so software in the sense a set of instructions, right? If you have included uh, a code in between the program, that we call it as a software interrupts, right? So if we are going to insert in between the program, that we call it as a software interrupts. When the interrupt come from the pins outside, from outside through the pins, it has been interrupted, we call it as an hardware interrupts. So coming to this hardware interrupts, so hardware interrupts in the sense the interrupt comes from the pin, through the pin, we call it as a hardware interrupts. In 8085 microprocessor, we are going to have five hardware interrupts. The first one is INTR, RST 7.5, RST 6.5, RST 5.5, and trap. These are the five hardware interrupts we are going to have in the 8085 microprocessor. Among all the five interrupts, this trap is going to have the highest priority. This trap is going to have the highest priority, and INTR is going to have the lowest priority. So based on the priority, we are executing the request, right? If high priority in the sense, we are giving chance to that particular high priority process. If low priority in the sense, we are giving last chance to that particular process, fine? So keeping that in mind, so in hardware interrupts, we are having, how many interrupts are there? We are having totally five hardware interrupts. What are the five hardware interrupts in the sense? INTR, RST 7.5, 6.5, 5.5, and trap. Among all the five or hardware interrupts, this trap is going to have the highest priority, and INTR is going to have the lowest priority. So when coming to the software interrupts, we are having totally 8 software interrupts. So RST 0 to RST 7. So they are totally 8 software interrupts. Software interrupts are nothing but we are going to include an interrupt in the middle of the program. So that we call it as a software interrupts. When the interrupt comes from the pin, from the pins of a processor, we call it as an hardware interrupts. And next classification is vectored and non-vectored interrupts. So let me tell you, what do you mean by an vectored and non-vector interrupt? So as I have said you, if CPU is executing one task, if CPU is executing one task, and here it is an subroutine, right? If suppose if Y task wants the time of the CPU, Y task wants the time of the CPU, so the CPU has to go where? To the Y task. The CPU has to attend the Y task. Suppose the vectored and non-vectored interrupts in the sense, vectored interrupts in the sense, they are having the fixed starting address. So this 2400 is fixed starting address for keyboard, and some 3960 is a fixed starting address for mouse. So when we are going to talk regarding the vectored interrupts, we are going to have the fixed starting address. When we are going to talk with the non-vectored interrupts, so there is no predefined fixed starting address. We have to give by ourselves where we have to go, like a call 2400, like that we are sending the, like a call 2400, in the sense we are telling the processor to go to that particular location and execute that particular interrupt. That is a non-vectored interrupt. If vectored interrupt in the sense, suppose if we click a mouse button, for that already fixed starting address will be there. For mouse, what I have said, for mouse some 3960. So 3960 is the fixed starting address of a mouse subroutine. So this is the mouse subroutine. So automatically the CPU will go to this 3600. So if the starting address is fixed, we call it as a vectored interrupt. If starting address is not given and we have to give the starting address, I mean we have to give the address where that has to go, in the sense, that is the non-vectored interrupt. So that is the vector and non-vector interrupts. See here, Vectored interrupts are those which have fixed vector address. Vector address is nothing but starting address, and after executing this, the program control is transferred to that particular address. When it comes to the non-vectored interrupts, the interrupt devices we or subroutines or these interrupts have to give the address. So that is the vectored and non-vectored interrupts. And another classification is, this is the second classification, and another classification is maskable interrupt and the non-maskable interrupt. So when we are going to talk regarding these maskable interrupts, so these maskable interrupts can be disabled or ignored by the microprocessor. Suppose if CPU is executing some X task, if maskable interrupt came, the CPU can ignore this. So the CPU can ignore this. Why? Because it is a maskable interrupts. So these interrupts are either edge triggered or level triggered. Edge triggered or level triggered. What do you mean by an edge triggering and what do you mean by level triggering? So suppose this is the signal. Fine. So edge triggered in the sense this is a positive edge and this is the positive edge, and when it comes here, this is the negative edge. Fine. Edge triggered or level triggered. So this is the positive edge and this is the negative edge. Level means this, we call it as a level triggered. So by positive edge it can activate, or negative edge it can activate, or by the level of the edge we can activate. So these are the maskable interrupts. So in 8085, here we are going to have INTR 7.5, 6.5, 5.5 are the maskable interrupts. When it comes to non-maskable interrupt, we say that this trap is a non-maskable interrupt which is having the highest priority. When the CPU is executing X task, when the trap interrupts came, means CPU can't ignore this trap. Why? Because it is a non-maskable interrupt. It has to stop executing this X task and it has to proceed with the trap signal. Why? Because a trap is having the highest priority and trap is a non-maskable interrupt. It consists of both level edge as well as edge triggering. Fine. So both the triggering we can do, level triggering we can do, and as well as the edge triggering we can do. So this is the brief introduction before going to the PIC, programmable interrupt controller. So so this is regarding the interrupts, and next concept is the 8259 microprocessor. So 8259 we call it as programmable interrupt controller. Fine. 8259 in shortcut we call it as PIC, programmable interrupt controller. So as it is an interrupt controller, I have given you the introduction regarding the interrupts. Fine. Now you came to know what is a vectored interrupt, what is a non-vectored interrupt, what is a maskable interrupt, and what is a non-maskable interrupt, and what is the hardware interrupt, and what is the software interrupt, right? Hardware interrupts in the sense through pins, if an interrupt comes in the sense, we say it as an hardware interrupt. If you have included an interrupt code in between the program, that we call it as a software interrupt. Next one is vectored and non-vectored interrupts. If the interrupt is having the fixed starting address, we call it as a vectored interrupt. If the starting address has to be given by the programmer to the microprocessor, those are non-vectored interrupts. And lastly, maskable interrupt and non-maskable interrupt. If CPU is executing any particular task, if an interrupt occurs, the CPU can neglect or CPU can disable that interrupt. We call that as a maskable interrupt. When it comes to a non-maskable interrupt, if trap, for example, trap of 8085, trap is having the highest priority. CPU can't neglect that trap signal. So it has to, must and should, it has to attend that trap signal. So that is the non-maskable interrupt. So clear regarding the interrupts. Now we'll be going to see the block diagram of 8259. Before going to the block diagram of 8259, let us know why we are in need of 8259, right? Why we are in need of 8259, we'll be going to know it first. So so here, as I have said you before, like we are going to have uh, some vectored interrupts like keyboard, this is the mouse, this is the some printer. So keyboard address is some 0245 and 6324 4623. These are vectored interrupts. Vectored interrupts in the sense starting address is fixed. Vectored interrupts in the sense starting address is fixed. And we are also having the non-vectored interrupt. This is the non-vectored interrupt, that is INTR. Fine. So here we have seen vectored interrupts and non-vectored interrupts. So in vectored interrupts, we are non-vectored interrupts. What is the INTR? Is only the non-vectored interrupt over here. INTR is only the non-vector interrupts. Like remaining 7.5, 6.5, 5.5 are the vectored interrupts. So here RST 7.5, 6.5 and 5.5 are the vectored interrupts. Vectored interrupts in the sense starting address is fixed. Starting address is fixed. Fine. Non-vectored interrupts in the sense we have to give the starting address. We have to give address. We have to say address. Fine. Where to go. So this is the vectored and non-vectored interrupts. And here is the interrupt ISR. ISR in the sense interrupt service register or interrupt subroutine. Interrupt subroutine. We call it as a interrupt subroutine. Fine. So here these are the vectored interrupts. Vectored interrupts in the sense these are the fixed starting address is there. So if a microprocessor want to, if this keyboard interrupt came in the sense, the microprocessor automatically will go to 0245 location and execute the task. Mouse interrupt came in the sense like it will go to 6329 memory location. It will be going to execute the task like that. It will be going to do. But when it comes to the INTR, it is a non-vectored interrupt. We don't have any starting address. So the device sends the address of the ISR. What the device we are going to send, the device is going to send the address of this ISR. So here these are fixed. Suppose for example, we are having another USB port also will be there, na, right? So if the USB port also wants to interrupt the processor, but there is no space to allocate this USB. So what we have to do, what we are going to do is we are going to combine 2 or 3 interrupts and then we have to give to the processor. Can we combine this USB with this vectored interrupts? No. Why? Because these vectored interrupts are having the starting address as fixed. So what is the only way is we can combine this USB port with this INTR signal and then we can give and then we can provide the interrupt. So this is 8085. So suppose if USB signal has came and INTR signal has came, did 8085 knows which is a USB signal and which is the INTR signal? No. So that is the reason why we are going to incorporate this 8259 in between the 8259 in between the interrupts. This is the interrupts and this is not 8085. This is the interrupts and this is the 8085. Right? So if this INTR and USB signals, what we are going to do, we will be going to provide to the 8259. In turn, 8259 will be going to provide to the 8085. Why? Because these interrupts, so we can't give more than these interrupts. So what we are going to do is we are going to provide these interrupts to 8259. 8259 has R0 to R7 interrupts. It can handle 8 interrupts. So we are going to provide this 2 interrupts combinedly to 8259. So here it will be the INTR interrupt and here it will be the USB interrupts. Does 8085 knows which interrupt is this? No, only 8259 knows which interrupt, whether it comes from the INTR or whether it comes from the USB. So that is the reason why we are going to make use of 8259. So 8259 is the programmable interrupt controller. It is going to control the number of inputs, how many interrupts are there. This 8259 is going to handle all the interrupts and it is going to do. So this is an interface between the 8085 and the interrupt. So this we are going to, this is the brief history of 8259 programmable interface controller. So this 8259 we call it as an programmable interrupt controller. In short, we will be going to say it as an PIC. In 8085 and 8086, there are 5 hardware interrupts and 2 hardware interrupts respectively. In 8085, we are having the 5 hardware interrupts, and in 8086, we are having the 2 hardware interrupts. So by adding this 8259, we can interrupt the interrupt handling capability. So when we are going to talk regarding this 8085, only 5 hardware interrupts are there. So more we can't give, as I have seen, as we have seen in the previous example. So here 1 2 3 4 5, so USB we can't give to this 8085. So that is the reason, if you are going to provide 8259 in the middle, so that this 8259 can handle many of the interrupts, as 8085 can handle only 5 interrupts and 8086 can handle only 2 interrupts. So by making use of this 8259, we can increase the interrupt handling capability, like many of the interrupts we can handle. So this provides 8 interrupts. So 8259 is going to have 8 interrupts from IR0 to IR7. So these are the 8 interrupts from IR0 to IR7. These are the 8 interrupts. So what are the main features of this microprocessor? So this 8259 chip is mainly designed for 8085 and 8086 microprocessor. So it can be programmed in either edge triggered or in level triggered. As I have said you, edge triggered and level triggered in the sense, so this is the positive edge, this is the positive edge, and this is the negative edge, this is the level triggered edge. So this 8259 can be triggered by making use of an edge triggering or level triggering. In edge triggering, we are having 2, the positive triggering and the negative triggering. The high upward is a positive triggering and downward is a negative triggering. Upward positive triggering, downward negative triggering. So this is the level triggering. So we can mask individual bits. So how, irrespective of any of the things, we can mask bits by making use of interrupt request register. That is the main feature of this 8259 microprocessor. We can also do the cascading. So cascading in the sense 8259 18259. So this is the block diagram of 18259 processor. We can cascade like 2 or 3 or 4 8259s by making use of this cascade buffer comparator. When the CS0 is high, if you are giving 1, CS is 1, then it will be low. If CS is 0, then it will be high. If the CS is 0, then this is high. So this cascading buffer is in activating mode. So we can cascade 1 2 3 8259s 8259s in order to handle more number of interrupts. So that is the purpose of this cascade buffer comparator. Fine. So that is the major function of this cascading buffer. So let me tell you, so this is the this whole diagram is the block diagram of 8259. Here we are going to have the control logic, right? Here we are going to have the interrupts. So how many interrupts are there? IR0 to IR7. That means 8 interrupts it can handle. So how many interrupts from keyboard, from mouse, from printer, from scanner, from plotter, how many interrupts are there? Those all interrupts will be there in the interrupt request register. So what is the purpose of this interrupt request register? In the sense, interrupt request register stores all the requests. Interrupt request register stores all the requests which are request for interrupt service. So interrupt service in the sense which are in executing. Fine. So here the purpose of this interrupt request register is it stores all the interrupts which are requesting for interrupt service. Then what is an interrupt service register? In the sense, it stores the interrupt level which are currently being executed. Currently being executed instructions are stored in the interrupt service register. Fine. Here we are going to have the priority resolver. What do you mean by priority resolver? In the sense, suppose here we are going to have 8 interrupts. Among the 8 interrupts, it is going to select one which is having the highest. Suppose here one trap signal is also there. Trap interrupt is there. So out of all this, trap is having the highest priority. So what this priority resolver will do is, among all the requests, it is going to select one interrupt which is having the highest priority. Fine. So and also it reset the interrupt level which is already been serviced in the interrupt request register. Fine. So this is the priority resolver. So many out of many interrupts, it is going to select one and it is going to give the high priority to that. And next one is interrupt mask register. So interrupt mask register, what it is doing is it stores the interrupt level which has to be masked by storing the masking of bits. Masking in the sense, like CPU can neglect. It is not masked in the sense, say it has the highest priority. So that is the purpose of this mask register. So which bits have to be masked, which bit has not to be masked, all the things we'll be going to see by this interrupt mask register. As I have said you, what do you mean by a cascading buffer? So this is the one architecture of 8259. Like this, if we want to combine 3 architecture, in the sense, this CS pin should be active low. Active low in the sense 0 bar, 0, it should be 0. 0 bar in the sense it is 1. 1 in the sense this cascading buffer is activated and we can attach 3 8259s in order to have more number of interrupts. Fine. And next one, here you can see the SP bar by EN bar. SP bar by EN bar means SP in the sense slave program. SP in the sense slave program. EN in the sense enable buffer. EN in the sense enable buffer. When this pin is set to high, if this pin is set to high, in the sense if it is set to 1, it acts as in slave mode. It acts as a slave mode. In non-buffered mode, this pin is used to specify whether this 8259 is acting as a slave mode or a buffered mode. This pin is used as an output to enable the data bus. So that is the purpose of this SP by EN. SP in the sense slave program, enable buffer. Slave program in the sense when this pin is set to high, it acts as a slave program. In enable buffer in the sense in non-buffered mode, it is used to specify this 8259 works as a master or a slave. This is how the SP by EN is going to work. And next comes to the read-write control logic. Read-write control logic in the sense this block works only when the value of the pin CS is low. CS pin is low in the sense, so if this is low, this block is going to work. If this is high, this block is going to work. So that is the difference. If CS is equals to 1, cascading buffer is going to work. If CS is equals to 0, then read write logic is going to work. Fine. So this block is responsible for flow of data depending upon the inputs of read and write operation. Fine. Here these two pins are active low pins used for read and write operation. Active low in the sense it is basically low. If it is 0 in the sense, then it will be 1. If it is 0 in the sense, it will be 1. So these are used for read and write operations. And coming to the main thing of control logic. So what do you mean by a control logic in the sense? So here it is the center of the microprocessor. This control logic is the center of the microprocessor, which is going to control each and every functionality, whatever the functionalities that are there, it is going to control each and every functionality in each and every block. How many 8 blocks are there totally? In 8 blocks, this control logic is used to control. It has this INTA bar and INTA pin. This INT is connected to this, this 8085 or 8086. Fine. So here this pin INTR, which is connected to other microprocessor for taking the interrupt request. Suppose see here, out of 8 interrupts, this priority resolver selected one that is going to be sent to the control logic. By this control logic, what it is going to do is it is going to send to the microprocessor. So to do the service the request. So after receiving this process, this microprocessor will give an acknowledgement through INTA bar that I have received your service. So that is the purpose of this INT and INTA. INT is nothing but interrupt to the microprocessor. INTA bar is the interrupt acknowledgement from the microprocessor. INT is interrupt to the microprocessor. MUP in the sense microprocessor. Interrupt to microprocessor. INTA bar is interrupt acknowledgement from the microprocessor to the control logic that I have received your interrupt. So if 8259 is enabled, if this is enabled, so and other microprocessor interrupts flag is high, then this causes the value of INT pin to be high. So this is how the interrupt is going to be serviced. And mostly the majorly we are going to talk regarding this data bus. So this data bus is a mediator between the, here we are going to connect 8085 or 8086. Here we are going to connect 8085 or 8086. This data bus is the mediator between 8259 and 8085 or 8086. It takes the control word. So here the control logic is going to be there na. It takes the control word from the control logic of 8259. From here it is going to take the word and it is transfer the opcode. So here when we are going to talk regarding this 8259, it is a 3-bit. 3-bit in the sense, first it is going to transfer the opcode, next it is going to transfer the lower byte, next it is going to transfer the higher byte. So these are the 3 bits. Fine. So first it is going to transfer the opcode, then lower bit of that particular. Suppose if this trap has been selected, so it has to go to that particular subroutine. So subroutine address is 4020. What it is going to do is this is going to send the opcode. Lower byte is 20, higher byte is 40. This address is going to be placed onto the data bus buffer. So this is going to be given to the 8085. The 8085 will attend that particular 4020 and then it is going to give the result. Here the data bus consisting of 8 bits represented by D0 to D7. So thus it shows that a maximum of 8 bits can be transferred at a time. So this is how the working of 8259 is going to be done. So this 8259 is a programmable interrupt controller So it is going to handle many number of interrupts. Why? Because 8086 can handle only 2 interrupts, 8085 can handle only 5 interrupts. But if you want to actually give more interrupts, in the sense we have to place this 8259 in the middle of 8085 and the interrupts, so that how many interrupts are there, irrespective of the interrupts, this priority resolver is going to select one highest priority interrupt, and then it is going to send to the processor. This is how the working execution of this 8259 processor is going to be done. Hope you understood. Listen the video twice so that you will be going to have the much more better clarity regarding this 8259. Fine. So the data bus buffer, in the sense, use it to communicate between 8259 and 8086. Fine. Read write logic, in the sense, if the CS is 0, then this read inputs and write inputs are going to be working. And the control logic, in the sense, if this pin INTR is used for interrupt request to the microprocessor, and in turn we are going to have INTA bar, interrupt acknowledgement, from the microprocessor. And next, interrupt request register, in the sense, it stores all the interrupts. How many interrupts are there? It stores all the interrupts. And interrupt service register, in the sense, currently being executed interrupt will be stored in this interrupt service register. Mask register, in the sense, we are going to mask, that is, we this processor can mask whether based on the priority resolver, in the sense, the trap is going to have the highest priority, so that it can be given priority among all the interrupts. Cascading buffer, in the sense, if you want to connect more interrupts, so this 38259 can be cascaded, combined, and then we can work it properly. So this is how the working of this 8259 programmable interrupt controller is going to be done. Fine. Hope you enjoyed the class today. And that's all for today's class, students. And in the next class, we'll be going to coming up with one more microprocessor and its block diagram. Fine. This 4th and 5th units are totally of different microprocessors, studying of different microprocessor. You have to draw the block diagram and explain the working of each and every block. Fine. Hope you enjoyed the class. Thank you all, students. Have a great day.